All right, let's talk about a programming language that was, for so many people, their very first hello world. A language that wasn't just about code and commands, but was more like an open invitation into this brand new digital world. This is the story of BASIC.
Okay, so let's just jump right into the drama, shall we? In 1975, one of the absolute giants of computer science, Edgar Dijkstra, said this about BASIC. He basically said it mentally mutilated programmers forever. I mean, wow, that's pretty harsh, isn't it?
And that really gets to the heart of our question today. If the so-called experts thought it was so terrible, so damaging, how on earth did BASIC become the undisputed king of early personal computers? To figure that out, we've got to go back, way back.
Now, our story doesn't start in some Silicon Valley garage, which you might expect. Nope, it starts at an Ivy League school, Dartmouth College, back in the 1960s. And you have to remember, at that time, computers were the exact opposite of personal.
I mean, we are talking about colossal machines that took up entire rooms. You couldn't just walk up and use one. It required specialized training, and you had to learn these really complex, almost cryptic languages, built for heavy-duty scientific number crunching.
But then, two professors at Dartmouth, John Kemeny and Thomas Kurtz, they had this absolutely radical idea. They thought, wait a minute, computer skills should be for everyone, not just the math and science majors. Their vision was so simple, but totally groundbreaking. Get every single student on campus using a computer. And to do that, they knew they needed a language that an actual human could learn without a PhD.
And this right here, this shows you everything you need to know about their whole philosophy. On the left, you've got Fortran, a popular language at the time. Look at that command for a loop. It's just a mess of numbers and syntax. Good luck remembering that. But then look at the right. That's BASIC. It's just English. 4i equals 1 to 10, step 2. It just makes sense. This was a total rethink of how to talk to a computer.
And the name? Oh, it was perfect. BASIC, Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. The name itself was a mission statement. It's right there in the first word, beginner. This thing was designed from day one to be friendly and welcoming.
So, for about a decade, BASIC kind of hung out mostly in the academic world. But then the mid-70s hit, and a whole new revolution started to bubble up. And BASIC, well, it was about to have its moment.
And things started moving fast. In 1975, a little tiny company you might have heard of, Microsoft, with a hyphen, founded by Bill Gates and Paul Allen, wrote a version of BASIC for the Altair 8800. And that was the spark. Just 2 years later, the holy trinity of home computing, the Apple II, the Commodore PET, and the TRS-80, they all launched with BASIC built in. It wasn't an add-on anymore, it was the standard.
And this is the key thing to understand. BASIC wasn't an app you had to go find and install. No, you'd get your new computer, plug it in, flip the switch, and bam! There it was, a blinking cursor ready for you to type in BASIC commands. For millions of people, that was their first hello to the entire world of programming. Seriously, it was everywhere. All these legendary machines, the computers that basically defined a generation's childhood, they all had BASIC literally burned into their ROM chips. It was the one language they all spoke. And because it was so accessible, this whole amazing culture just popped up around it. You'd get magazines with pages of BASIC code for little games and tools. And an entire generation learned to code by sitting there, typing it all in, line by line, hunting for typos, and then getting that incredible feeling when it finally worked. It was learning by doing, for real. But here's the thing. The very world that BASIC helped create started to move on, fast. As we rolled out of the 80s and into the 90s, the whole landscape of computing changed in a big way. And BASIC, the undisputed king, was suddenly in trouble. Right? Computers got way more powerful. We started getting graphical interfaces with mice and icons. And what people wanted from their computers shifted. They didn't really want to code their own word processor anymore. They just wanted to buy a great one that worked right out of the box. So, what went down? Well, a couple of things. The professional developers, they all jumped ship to more complex, powerful stuff like C++ to build those big, fancy applications. And the average person? They just didn't need to program anymore. Suddenly, BASIC's greatest strength, its simplicity, started to look like a weakness. It just wasn't great for building really large, complex stuff.
But wait, the story is not over, not by a long shot. And this slide just shows the pivot perfectly. On the left, that's old school BASIC with the line numbers and that go-to command that all the purists absolutely hated. But on the right, that's its next life, Visual BASIC. This was a total game changer. You weren't just typing text commands anymore. You were dragging and dropping buttons and windows to build actual applications.
When Visual BASIC, or VB, came out in 1991, it was an absolute phenomenon. It made building applications for Windows incredibly fast and easy. It became the go-to tool for businesses that needed to whip up custom internal software. And knowing VB, that was a ticket to a great job. BASIC was back, and it was huge.
Okay, so fast forward to today. Where does that leave BASIC? I mean, the old school, line-numbered version? That's pretty much a museum piece. But its spirit, its DNA, oh, that is still very much alive and kicking. You see, the language just kept evolving. You've got VB.NET, which is a major language in the whole .NET world, and you can still find different flavors of BASIC all over the place, in game development, in scripting, and especially in hobbyist communities that just want to keep that original spirit of fun, accessible coding alive. And really, that core philosophy of BASIC, that programming should be for everyone, is more relevant today than ever. Think about it. Every modern learn-to-code platform, every simple scripting language, every tool designed to make programming less scary, they all owe a debt to that original vision from way back at Dartmouth.
And it all comes back to this simple, powerful idea from its co-creator, John Kemeny. The goal was never to create the most perfect or elegant language for computer scientists. Nope. The goal was access. The goal was empowerment. It was as simple as that.
So going back to that first quote, maybe Dijkstra had a point from a purely academic perspective, but he kind of missed the forest for the trees. BASIC was never about training professional programmers. It was about opening a door. It taught an entire generation that they too could command these magical new machines. And that leaves us with a final thought. In our world today, which just gets more complex all the time, what lessons can we still learn from BASIC's radical, beautiful simplicity?